In radio land, once again, I'd like to remind you, you are listening to the Keith Harris Show Global Network right here on HotlineRadio.net, the hottest radio station, internet radio station in New York and all across the globe. Now, today, we have a wonderful, wonderful author in the building. This man, writes horror stories. He's been an author for quite some time now. A lot of wonderful projects. He even has some of his literature inside of the school system as well, out in Oakland. We're going to be talking about that also. Without any further ado, Deno Sandz, horror author, is on the line with us. How you doing, Deno?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Keith? I'm glad to be talking to you this evening.
Same here, brother. I'm feeling blessed, man. So everything's all right.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
No doubt. Now, okay, so let's get right into it now. First of all, you are originally you were born in Alabama.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Okay. And so where do you reside now? Are you in ATL, Chicago, or what?
Actually, I just relocated to Ohio.
Oh, Ohio.
Oh, yes. I've been in Chicago a long time, so I wanted to change scenery, so I just relocated to Ohio.
Okay. How you liking that so far?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Ohio is one of the capitals of horror, so they're very nice to me and pumping me very much down here in Cleveland. Yes.
All right, man. That's a big deal. You're going to switch to who was your since you mentioned Cleveland, I guess I asked you who are you watching any football? Who you going with?
I watched football yesterday. I watched the Cleveland Browns, and later on tonight I'm gonna watch the Bears just to see because I'm from Chicago. But I'm just watching it just to watch it.
Yeah, me too, pretty much, man. Okay, so now getting into it. You're a fiction for everybody out there who does not already know. Deno, you're a fiction author. You've been doing this for 10 years or 10 years or more?
Correct, yes. 10 years or more. Yes, it's going on 10 years or more. Yes, it has.
What's your favorite genre to write? Because I know you write horror. Is that where you started, is writing horror?
I want to say that yes and no. I mean, I started writing poetry as a young man, early on before, but I was writing screenplays and little dramas. But horror captured me. Hearing the stories in the South as a young boy, the myths and superstitions that always inspired me to want to write something like that. So horror is my genre. I mean, horror is what I love to do. I mean, I'm passionate about, but I write everything. I'm multitasked. I can write anything, but horror is my passion. Yes.
Okay. Was there anything that drew you to horror in particular? Because we all know everybody likes horror. Everybody likes some guts and some gore and things of that nature. Is that what kind of attracted it to you, or did you have a personal attraction towards the horror?
Well, I must say I had a personal attraction. As a young man. Not a young man. As a child, I used to have a lot of nightmares.
Okay.
And a lot of nightmares that that came almost was very prevalent in my life, and it scared me pretty much. But I had it. My grandmother, that when I used to have these nightmares, always seemed to pull me out of the nightmares before something happened. So that was the basis of me, harboring on writing horror, because it scared me to a point, but then it made me realize that maybe this was my calling to maybe put a little fright in everyone else. Mm-hmm. So I used those different things and the things I learned in my dreams, to create, who I am today.
Right. Now, okay. Now this one right here, because I wanted to ask you about this book and this novel, as a matter of fact, because a lot of relatives in the South, all right, and as a child, when I used to go to the South, I always heard these scary stories from grandma and the woods and the haunted houses. So that brings me to Miss Merriweather in A Southern Nightmare. Okay.
Oh man, I mean, actually, as a young boy, I was born in the South in nightmares. Miss Merriweather was actually in my nightmares, and I created Miss Merriweather because as I became of age, I wanted to do something to when you saw your Michael Myers and your Jasons and your Freddy Kruegers, and Miss Merriweather's she was created as the most beautiful woman in the South.
Right.
But the most evil woman in the South. And these dreams, I had these dreams about Miss Meriwether actually from myths I heard in the South, but I created my own Miss Meriwether. And she's not, she's beautiful. And that's who she used to come to my dreams, as a beautiful woman, but as a evil woman. And this is how Miss Meriwether came about in my first novel.
Okay. So she was attracted to the eye, but she was scary. So was that something that kind of made people, did people attract to her because of that, and then all of a sudden she changed? She switched.
Well, actually, Miss Meriwether came about as she was in the South as a single woman, but the most beautiful single woman in the South, but she was a little touched. And when she died, the evil, which I want to say captured her soul when she died. So when she came back, she had the evil in her, but she was still the most beautiful woman in the South.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a crazy twist to it right there. Absolutely. Now, do you have a special time that you pull your best stories out of you? Like do you write at night or you daytime? What time do you go in?
Well, actually, I write at night. I love the night. I love the silence. I mean, I love the silence and I love the noise. It just depends, In the daytime, most likely, I'm taking notes, mental, and putting on paper. But the night, seems to bring about all my ideas that I've thought about during the day. But sometimes I can write in the silence, but then I might get bored, so I may have to turn on the radio. But then I kind of filter out the radio, but I still hear the radio, but I still write. So it just depends on how I feel that particular night.
Yeah, you know what? I feel that as a matter of fact, because I know myself when I do, certain things I'm doing, I need to have the TV in the background. Like you say, not too loud, but just to kind of keep.
Right, exactly. You're not watching it, but it's on. The music is on, but I'm not listening. But I'm still right. I mean, it's just sometimes, that helps, and then sometimes you do want a little quiet time with nothing. But it just depends on how I feel.
Right. Now let me ask you this. This is just a life question in general. I know as a child, we all had nightmares. Do you ever still, you write so many horror stories. Do you ever feel like you still hear things going bump in the night sometimes?
Not necessarily. If I hear something bump in the night, I may get up and start writing because nothing scares me in that in that aspect of writing a horror. So a bump in the night, it can mean anything. That's a good thing to me. So I may use that in a book or something like that. So no, nothing really scares me as far as a bump in the night at all. I love to hear a bump in the night. I mean, I'm the type of horror novelist that I love to see my grandmother who's passed. I love to see my father sitting in the chair talking to me. That doesn't scare me. Right. And I use those kind of things in my writing, but I use those kind of things to scare the readers in my writing.
Right. Now, talking about relatives and things, your mom, your mother, as a matter of fact, she was a writer too, correct?
Yes. My mother, she was a writer all through high school, and she could still write, and she always says that's a part of, I've received a part of her through me and loving to write, which I have. She was a great writer, and actually she's a reverend now, and her sermons that she writes is just like writing novels, and they're perfect. So yes, I believe it did trickle down to me.
Okay. Now, to be a writer, I know the ideas really pour out from you, in your good writings. What about like in school? Were you good at English?
Yes, I was very good in English. I was very good in English, I must say. I mean, that was a long time ago. But I don't have the report cards. I believe I was pretty good in English because I love writing. I love creating. I love imagination and being creative and visualization. So that made me a great writer, not only through high school or grammar school, through high school, through college. I was always visualizing and imagining things, and I create anything. So I think I was a pretty decent A-B student, I believe. Okay.
Yeah, because I know, like, sometimes, when it comes to writing, even with poetry and things like that, coming up, when it's a gift for you like that, as you say, in school, you can come up with the greatest of stories. Not, even for myself, like, I would always write good stories. Now, Now, I wouldn't always have my punctuality correct. You know what I'm saying? Like, crossing my T's and dotting my I's. But when it came to just telling stories in general, just having a creative mind is what can lead you to where you are today and just being a great storyteller like you are.
I agree with that. Most people don't understand. And writing books, punctuation is, yes, that's good. Good, great grammar. Yes, that's great in your book when people can say, oh, he put the period at the comma at the right place, and that's wonderful. But that doesn't mean that it was a great book. See, great books are when you can capture the reader and bring the reader inside to visualize everything you're talking about. As you said before, a great storyteller. When you tell stories, you don't put periods and commas when you speak. It's only when you write they look for the periods and commas. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a great story.
Absolutely.
Or it's going to draw your readers in to visualize themselves smelling what you wrote or seeing what you wrote. That doesn't, you know what I'm saying? But in the publishing industry, yes, you have to have the right period and commas in the right place and not a run-on sentence. But when you tell a story, it doesn't matter. So when you look as a reviewer or something like that, you can look for the commas and periods in a perfect grammar. But if you just look for that, you will not understand the true story, and that becomes a problem.
Right. Now, you know what? That brings me to actually a question about the business in general. When when people like yourselves or yourself, when you write books and then they're ready for publishing, and let's say you have a wonderful story put together, it's great, it captures the reader. Are there people who do proofreading, or are there people who actually complain about where the punctuation is?
Yes, but it's just like if you go to college. Your first year you have an English professor. The second year you have an English professor. But the second English professor tells you to write it this way, but you say, no, my first English professor told me to write it this way. Down your third year you have another, and then you're trying to write about the first, the ones that taught you the first two, and the third one say no. So it just depends on, proofreading is a wonderful thing, but it's to the eye.
Right. And
you can't depend on the computer or Microsoft Word to proof, because everybody's eyes are different. You might say something some way, and the other one people may see another. It just depends on who's actually editing or proofreading your work, especially when you're doing mainstream. They have particular editors and they want it this way. But you might have been taught to write it this way for all these years, but they want it one way. It just depends.
Oh, okay. Now, have you, in all your books, have you done the most of the writing for your books yourself, or have you ever collaborated with anyone? Or
no, I've never collaborated with anyone at this point. I would like to one day. I would like to collaborate, but at this point, no, I have not. I've just written all my books on my own, my short stories. Wow. Everything else, my screenplays, I've written on my own. Wow,
that's amazing. Look, that's truly good right there, to be able to sit down and just start from beginning to end and do that. How long does it take you? And I know it depends on whether it's a short story or a novel of some sort, but how long does it take you when you've written your longest books? How long does that take?
It just depends. Some people can write books, they want them 350 pages. Some can write a book that's 150 pages, 200 pages. It just depends on how you feel and where you want to cut it off. If you want to just try to keep recreating, it depends. But a 350-page book doesn't necessarily mean it's better than a 150-page book. It's the storyline and the plot and things of that sort. So it just depends. I can write one book in 3 months and then edit it for 2 and then publish it, get it published. It's just me. I can write 3 books in 1 year. It just depends on how I feel.
Okay, and that doesn't necessarily, to do it in 3 months doesn't necessarily say that you have to, write every night necessarily, or can you skip a night or two, or?
Well, most of the time, sometimes I skip a night, but sometimes it depends on if I have it. I can stay up 6 hours and write 10 chapters and put it down and start another book. See, as a writer, that's what I do. A lot of writers may not do that, but I can start, like I have 3 projects going at one time. I have 10 chapters here, 12 chapters about to finish up one book. It just depends on how I feel. I sit that down and recreate and start the other book. Wow,
and just being able to go back and forth like that and store all of that information. Now, do you ever get crossed up? Like, okay, let's say you're writing one book, or you're writing one story, and then you go to the next one. Have you ever had times, and you probably don't do that now, but have you ever had times where you find yourself, because I could be writing something and next thing I know I'm writing what I was thinking about something else. Has that ever happened? Can you be writing one story and then accidentally be done wrote 4 or 5 lines about the other story?
No, I try to make sure when I write, I try to make sure in the horror genre, I try to make sure I watch all horror movies, and when I try to read, different aspects of horror and things like that, because I don't want to recreate the wheel, and that's very difficult for you as a horror novelist not to recreate the scene that someone else already created. So I never see myself crossing over, because my mind, I don't want to say it's like a sponge, but I know that the scenario of one book I cannot recreate.
Okay.
And I don't want to recreate it in another book. I can't do that, because not from character to plot to ending to climax to anything. I don't want to recreate that. So no, I really don't have a difficulty time with that, because I make sure from one book to the other, it's not the same at all. It's not the same character, not the same plot, nothing.
Right. Okay. And so, like, some of your characters, do you, you write a variety of stories, and there's definitely a differential in all of them. But how do you come up with, what captures you with a particular character that you want to write about? Are there certain ones that you like to really just kind of delve into, or can they go from way in left field to way in right field in difference?
Well, left and right field and center field. I mean, it's my characters are a reality. When you walk around the world and you don't pay attention to people, you can't build on your characters, because the world is characters, full of nothing but characters. I mean, standing at the bus stop, driving in a car, at a department store. These are characters. Their mannerisms, what they say, how they walk. If you're not paying attention, you cannot create great characters. It's just the basic characters with with flaws per se, because you're not capturing the reality of people. Even in my horror novels, even the protagonist or the antagonist, it's the world, it's characters, and I put them all together with people I've seen and their mannerisms and how they speak. I try to make sure and how they dress and walk. When I try to create that in my characters, so you can't walk blind in this world, especially as a writer, and not paying attention to people.
You know what?
People are characters.
You know what? That's deep. Really what you just said. Because because it delves into just the psychological and just the psyche of just humanism in general. And like you say, being able to watch characters, because you can pull different things from just people in everyday life, as you say. Yes,
I agree. Yes.
In a way, a lot of people are characters. And if you really stop sometimes, like you say, if you go to the bus stop or just walk down the street, these are average people, arms, legs, fingers, hands, everything like that. But they do have different personalities. Some things a lot of people don't even know about these people that make them particular characters.
Correct. I agree. Right. I agree. And that's if you want to become a great writer, you have to make sure your eye is on everything. I used to tell my students, I said, when you walk past one of them neon signs at a department store, past a store, do you hear the sound? Do you hear the sound? They say, what sound? I say, stop and pay attention. Listen. There's a sound emanating from that neon sign. As a writer, this is what you need to do. If you're going to be one of them great writers, descriptive and drawing readers in with sound and spell, you have to understand the world has a billion sounds. If you just walk past, you can't write that down because you've never heard that before.
Right. And some of those sounds, I'm sure, just like in your stories, when you describe even some of those sounds, they bring it to life. Because even... Right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, you're correct. You bring that in and you draw your readers in. You see what I'm saying? It's fine for me to read a novel that's perfect, like I said before, perfect punctuation, periods in the right place, no run-on sentences. But if it doesn't draw me in, it becomes boring. so I may not want to read it. I want to be inside the writer's mind. I want to see what he sees. I want to smell what he smells. So that's what I've been talking about.
That's amazing. Now, you also have a book called Awaken that has been taught in the Oakland School District for the last 5 years also, right?
Right. Actually, Keith, that was actually a short story I wrote in about 30 minutes a long time ago, and I re-edited it, and I posted it in the school district. One of the, I don't want to give her name, but one of the teachers from the school district asked me, could she use my short story in a classroom? And I said, okay. And from there, I went to the district, and from there, went to several schools, and they're still teaching it now.
Oh, wow. That's amazing, man. Congratulations to reaching that height, as a matter of fact.
Thank you.
And to being able. Now, okay. 2000, I believe, well, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it was 2011, but either way, Blood Plantation. Okay. That's you're talking about a plantation of blood. What's that about, Deno?
Oh, well, Blood Plantation, from the South, and knowing my history, I wanted to create a horror novel, but I wanted a historical fiction, but I wanted to bring some reality to it and truth to it, as far as the slave trade and how they came over and was taking slaves and brought them back to the plantation in the Americas.
Right.
And but I wanted to have a horror twist. So that's how Blood Plantation came about. As it starts, it tells you about slavery and then the evil. Slavery was an evil deed, but an evil deed of reality of people, human evil of a person doing evil things. Not far as a ghost or something like that. It was actually the evil from people.
Right.
But then after that, I created the fiction part of it and brought in the soul of the ocean, who was actually killed by a human who came back to per se do his wrath on the bloodline of the slave master.
Oh, okay. That again has your writings are, I love the twist to them in general. I've never actually heard of a story in this genre. And when you talk about history, because again, these things are real. This is real. And it really happened. I've never heard it until now, heard of it being quite put in that way, because let's be honest, it is a horror. It really is.
It is a horror. The reality, humanity against humanity horror, as far as humans doing something to another human, that was a perfect horror. That's terrible. Right. But however, when I did Blood Plantation, I wanted to bring back what you do, may go down the line through your bloodline. All the evil you've done, especially in slavery, may come back around to your bloodline. And I wanted to try to put the 2 and 2 together on that, the reality of slavery and then the fiction of horror and what may happen from the reality of slavery.
Yeah, that's amazing, because you get a lot of, again, like I said, I like the twist, because you get the horror stories where they're like animals or different people from outer space, or you get the campfire tales and things of that nature. But to really bring it to, and then you even get the paranormal effect in a lot of ways. But to actually bring something like Blood Plantation to the table, where this is living human. These are not, this isn't necessarily people that are gone or spirits or anything like this. This is actually, like you say, real life horrific acts. And so that has to be an amazing story itself.
Yes, I'm very happy about Blood Plantation. I'm very happy on the creativity I gave, to Blood Plantation and the research, and just the fear factor to bring to people. This what happens,
right.
When something like this happens, it may come back to you, and it may not be good. It's strictly evil.
Right. Now, you're writing comedy as well, Deno?
Yes, I've written a comedy screenplay. You know, I write. I told you before, I write everything, Keith. I mean, there's nothing I don't write. My passion is horror,
Right.
but I write everything. You know, I'm actually on the 20th. I'll be down here in Akron at a poetry thing. I'm being featured and honored to be on stage because I do my little poetry. But you know, horror is my passion. But I write screenplays. I have drama and comedy screenplays. I just haven't had the time to, you know, find the right people to the funding and for production and stuff like that. And but it's written down in file because you know when I'm bored from writing horror, I write other things.
Right. Now, and you know what? When you do get to that, and actually, when you do get to finding your funding, I tell you one that I really want to see is some of those Southern Nightmares as well. Because listen, I tell you, those are some spooky ones. What about Ichabod Shaw?
Ichabod Shaw, as I said before, Ichabod Shaw, I grew that character from reality, from watching people. Ichabod Shaw, he makes evil run scared. Now, I didn't want to create him as a priest per se, you know, things like that, but I wanted it to be in his blood. It was inherited to him through his blood to fight evil. But he was just an average person. But centuries ago, his bloodline was a priest. So I didn't want to make him a priest because that would be, you know, like other movies making him a priest because his forefathers was a priest. His ancestors were priests.
Right.
So I just wanted him to have that bloodline of the power of God and being a priest to fight evil. So he's just an average person that his destiny has always been to fight evil.
Okay. Now, you know
so ahead, Keith, I'm sorry.
Now, I was going to say, so now, you know, when you get ready to sit down and write, it seems like you know, you at least you have an idea of what you want your story to somewhat be about. Now, how do you carry that out? When you sit down, do you have a whole story almost in mind in some cases, or do you, once you start and you get in a few pages, do you kind of let your mind go wherever it takes you at that point?
No, actually, when I sit down, I already have a story. I have the beginning, the middle, and the end already set. It's just for me to put the pieces, you know, together. You know, put the parts in. I think I've always written like that. I mean, you know, sometimes I can think about the end first. You know, before I even start typing. But before I start typing, I think of the beginning because you know the beginning in most books, the beginning is the capture of the reader. The beginning. You know what I'm saying? Not the ending. Sometimes I write another, you know, I might start the ending first. It just depends on how I feel. But the beginning is how you draw your readers in. So I do focus, but I've already have it set out, the middle, the beginning, middle, and end already. It's just putting all the other parts in when I sit down.
Oh, okay. Now, you've written articles on the aspects of society. Okay. Can you explain to the people or let the listeners know exactly what that means?
Well, I've written articles, you know, short articles, you know, the new plantation, years ago when the new the charter schools came about. I've written articles for that and all sorts of articles I've written, and I don't have the list right now. It's on my blog, on my WordPress. All my articles are on my WordPress. And it just depends on how I feel, you know, about anything, a situation. I just start writing and I just catalog it in my WordPress and things like that. So I've written all kind of articles on every social aspect, culture, men, women, cheating. I mean, everything you want, you know, that you see out there now, I've written. But I have never tried to really pump that per se out there in the world. I just write those and put them out as, you know, in articles and in magazines and such. Yeah,
because I noticed also as well that you have been published in some magazines all across the country also.
Yes, you know, my short stories, you know, everything, you know, they just, when someone asks me, you know, I submit and they seem to publish them and short stories. I think I just received an email from, I can't remember, I think it's Talib Review. It's in, I don't want to say what country. It's just so many I have to write down. But I think it's in another country. They just published one of my poems, and I forgot to even sent it to them
Right.
to publish. I mean, it just depends on like, what I feel like doing at night. I may submit things to different articles, different magazines, and around the world, and they come back every now and then and say they publish it, and I just archive it away.
How does that feel, man, when you know that in another country that people, and other countries are multicultural sometimes they're not, but how does that make you feel? That must be a great feeling when you know you're sitting right at home and people are paying attention to your work in another country.
Oh, it's a great feeling. I've gotten much love from overseas and other countries. I mean, I've gotten a lot of love from the UK and Europe, England. I mean everywhere. Australia. I've gotten a lot of love. Mexico. I've gotten a lot of love from all kind of countries. About my writing and things like that. And I give them big applause. For looking at my talent. Trying to interview me and pumping my books and writing little reviews about me and stuff like that. So to even fathom the thought to be that far out, from the United States, that's a great feeling.
Hey, yeah, it must be, and they must have a good eye. They definitely have a good eye to have chosen you. I definitely have to say that, because to understand and really to honor your work, people apparently to their reading, they have to delve into what they're looking at, because your writing doesn't seem to follow the necessarily norm. They're great stories, but they're not average stories. They're well thought out. They've got a twist and a spin to them all, and they're edgy. They're for everyone, but they're edgy at the same time.
I agree. I put a lot of work in that to make sure that I try to give the readers what they want. I try to make sure it's edited properly, and if and maybe my eye or something like that, or editors might have slipped up. It might be a period not in the right place, or a comma, or maybe a misspelled word. But that right there, I don't focus on. It's not going to be a whole entire book of those. But if I slipped up, but as long as I can make sure I draw them into my book, I want to take them from their seat and draw them in like a force field, pulling them into my books to make sure they can see everything, and what I write, I'm good.
And you know what, speaking about that punctuation again, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think, and a lot of people out there might disagree with me, but for instance, when I'm reading, I don't even usually stop at the period. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's just in my way. You know what I mean? like right. And then, because I'm so stuck into the story. When you're reading a good story, you're stuck into it. And it's like, wait a minute, was I supposed to stop and read that a different way? But the truth is, you like it the way you understood it, and you just wanted to keep on. Because when people are talking to you, and this is true, Deno, when, if someone's reading one of your writings, almost like someone's telling you a story, people don't stop and say period or comma in the middle of telling a good story. And so I think, other than having to do it and being politically correct in that way, I don't think people are really noticing that either. So, I doubt those few missed spaces will matter too much.
But Keith, I watch everything as far as television. I read a lot of different cultures. I have 500 books per se of different cultures, and but even when you watch movies and when they do their dialogue and when they talk, you be saying that's not proper English. I wouldn't have wrote that down. But see, in movies and screenplays, there's a different aspect. See, it's a different aspect. You can write like that, and it doesn't have to be politically, literary correct as far as punctuation. But they can say it. But when you listen to it, you like, wait a minute, did they say? And when you're listening to it, you say it should have been a period. What word was that? Man, what in that, when you write screenplays, it's fine when it's on TV. It just gets more difficult and more critiqued when you write in books, because they want you to be the norm, and that political correct is supposed to be appeared here. But when you go and watch movies and when they speak, you be saying that I wouldn't have wrote a sentence like that. That's a run-on sentence. Did that make any sense? It was the comma there. What word was that they used? Why did they say that? Why did they say no? But in writing books, they'll tell you, you can't say no. You're supposed to say no. But why couldn't I say no? But in the movies, you can say no, and it's fine.
Well, and I see what you're saying, because different people, some people know the word no. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But I'm if I was reading someone's another author's book that said no, I wouldn't put the book down because he said no. I would put the book down if it didn't draw me in. I wouldn't worry about him saying no. I wouldn't worry about that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I wonder if that has anything to do with, you hear people all the sometimes say, well, the book was better than the movie. And, sometimes I wonder from the detail itself, if that has anything. I'm going to figure that out one day. I know people always say the book is better than the movie. And I guess people say that it was more in depth than the film itself, but I don't really know. Like, I'm trying to figure that out one day with, somehow.
Well, when they do make one of my books a movie, I want to make sure I be right there because if it's my book, I want to make sure they capture everything I mentally created. As far as the atmosphere, the dialogue, and things like that, I want to make sure. So I don't want anyone to say the movie, or the book was better than the movie. I want them to say that the movie and book was great.
And yeah, there you go. That's it. Now, okay, and in a second, I'm going to ask you about I'll talk about this first. The House of Shangri-La, am I saying it right?
Yes, Shangri-La. Yes.
Okay, what is that story about, and when can we expect that, or is it already out?
I actually released 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I released that too. It was released 2 weeks ago, and Shangri-La, in a historical fact, Shangri-La in different cultures was the most beautiful place in the world, with your neon birds and flowers and waterfalls, and the Tibetan, in Tibet, their culture, they said they talked about Shangri-La as this mystical place, beautiful, magical. So I changed into a horror novel to say, and I created Shangri-La, or the House of Shangri-La, to be embedded inside a mountain, as they, wrote about in different books and articles about Shangri-La years, centuries ago. So, it takes place, 4 siblings inherit the House of Shangri-La. So, but actually, they didn't know that the House of Shangri-La is actually a portal from actually hell into the world. Oh, wow. And their mother, who was Satan's daughter, escaped because it was an uprising in hell that they captured Satan. Oh, okay. And she escaped through the portal, which is the House of Shangri-La. And when she escaped, she became human. And after she became human, she got married and had children. Oh. But the House of Shangri-La, the entities in Hades, still held the father captured, and they needed to destroy the bloodline to make sure no one can come back, because they did not know that she would turn human. They thought maybe she still had the power of her father. Oh. But she became human, so that the servants of the House of Shangri-La had to stay there because there was a gateway between earth and heaven, and earth and hell. So then they found the way, after the mother passed away, to send a note to get the children to come back, because they wanted to kill the bloodline of Satan.
Oh, wow. And my next question was going to be, out of your writings, which one, besides all of them, but which one would you like to see turned into a movie? I like the Shangri-La right now myself, though, the way that sounded.
I love the Shangri-La, but I must say, Keith, Miss Merriweather's Southern Nightmare.
Yeah.
My first one, as like I said before, the new creation. I call her the new creation of evil, because she's not a man, she's a woman, and she has the power of all 3 of the male antagonists that's been written for all these years. She has the power. So I really am focused on Miss Merriweather's Southern Nightmare, because that was my first one. That's what sparked my career. So, but all my other ones, I would like Pen of Iniquity, that took place in a penitentiary. The House of Shangri-La, most definitely. Blood Plantation, most definitely. And, all of them, most definitely. But I think I will pick Miss Merriweather's Southern Nightmare. Yeah,
that's going to be something. That's going to be a good one, because like you say, she's beautiful, but then next thing you know, some trouble comes behind that as well.
Right, exactly.
That's going to be right. Now, but before we get ready to get out of here, what advice would you have for young people coming up, or even some older people that would like to sit down and try to become a writer, as qualified as yourself? And I know that's no easy way to really explain that, but what advice would you have?
Well, it's the same advice I give everybody. When people say they want to write, I say sit down and write. I say be creative. Find your creative. Because you have to understand, no matter how creative you are, you still may be turned down. Some people may not grasp what you're talking about. But if you find your own niche, your own creativity, you just write. And as you write, it will come. It will start coming. Just sit down and write it. If you say you want to write a book, write it. And you don't worry about, let me go, there was that period here in the right place, because you stop and you take away from your creativity. You can worry about that later on. You know what I'm saying? But you take care of your creativity and you sit down and you write if that's what you want to do. And if that is your heart, because if you want to be a great writer, it can't be part-time. Because this is something you want to do. If you want to be writing, you're not saying I'm going to write one book and that's it. Then you can't do that. If you're going to say you're a writer, then write. Write anything and everything. I'm not just saying stay in your drama, your urban fiction drama or your horror genre. You can write anything.
And have a variety.
But if you have a passion like me, passion is horror. But I write everything, but I still give 120% to 50% when I write the other things also. But my passion is horror.
Okay.
And that's what you have to do, because sometimes I may be stumped in a character or a situation. I might write a poem.
Oh.
I'm stumped, and then I'll go back and I'll say, oh, okay, now I'll start writing again.
Oh,
so
okay.
I will listen to somebody talking, and I'm like, okay, because I must say, my next novel that's coming out, I think it's be coming out in March, The Whorehouse on Penguin Creek. I was actually, when I said I relocated, I was actually driving. And I saw a sign that said Penguin Creek, and I said, oh, Penguin Creek. Then I was talking to a friend, he had a shirt on, he had went to Vegas, and one of them little t-shirts, it said Whorehouse on, and I was just looking at it, and he said, what you looking at? I said, man, that's a nice idea. So I said, let me write a horror novel, and let me title it Whorehouse on Penguin Creek.
Oh, man.
And that's how you get your creative. You have to watch everything that's around you, and that's how you create, not just horror. It can be drama, it can be urban fiction, it can be whatever. But you have to watch everything around you.
And so it is okay to pull different ideas from other places. Like, you don't totally have to just try to come up with everything right off the top of the head when it comes to titles or...
No, the world itself is a book. The world itself is filled with characters and situations and dialogue and scenery. The world itself is the book. If you just walk past lackadaisical and not watching, especially as a writer, you won't ever become that great writer that you want to become, because you're not watching anything.
Right. Okay. Now, when let everybody out there know where they can go, buy your books so far, on your novels, and or just go read your stories and things like that. Any websites and social networks?
Yes. I'm all over the world. I mean, Facebook, Twitter, IG, LinkedIn.
Okay.
LinkedIn. My books on Amazon. You can find a lot of them at the bookstores if you go request them. I mean, if you just type Deno Sandz in, everything I've written, all my WordPress, my blogs, everything is there. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Everybody out there listening all across the land and other countries as well. As he said, his works are everywhere. So make sure you go check all of that out. Listen, Deno, we're going to be looking forward to a lot more from you. And look, we're waiting on the movie. We're waiting on the movie to come out. Because I know somebody out there. I know somebody out there going to be smart enough to go ahead and pick one of these up, man. Because you're doing some great writing and intelligent too. Your deep thought with it. You really do try to challenge the mind when you're writing. And we
man, Keith, thank you very much. But let me say, Keith, yeah. I just released that the House of Shangri-La last month, but I'm releasing. Like I said, I write a lot. I'm releasing my next book this month before the end of December, and it's titled Seven Dreams, a Dialogue with Evil. And this is a new creation. It's going to blow people's mind. It's a different format. It's going to blow people's mind in the literary world about this new format I'm doing right now for this next book.
Okay, and where are they going to, and where would they be able to find that at too as well?
Amazon? It's going to be on Amazon. It's going to be released on Amazon before the end of this month. Actually, it's almost done. It's almost edited, and I'm trying to, cross the season, Dr. Eyes, but this is going to be a different kind of format. It's going to bring back centuries of writing, and that's all I can say. I'm not trying to put it out there because I don't want to call what it is, but the title is Seven Dreams, A Dialogue with Evil, and it's going to be released before the end of the month in December.
Okay, that sounds good. So look, after the new year, then after the new year, then Deno, then come on back and let us know. Like whatever you can say on it, come back and let us know and keep us posted.
I sure will, Keith. I sure will, man. It was definitely an honor and a pleasure to be on your show and talking to you, Keith. I sure appreciate it.
Listen, it was an honor to have you here as well. Again, I've watched your work ever since we connected. I've been paying attention to your work, and I just like everything you're doing. And I'm gonna sit down and get to reading myself. And especially the Southern Nightmare, okay? Because I'm stuck on those. They always get me, and I'm in the South, so.
Yeah, I know. It's great. I don't want to, pat myself on the back, but I'm trying very hard where I'm accomplishing and succeeding. I'm trying to make sure I give the readers what they want. I want to give them true horror fiction, with a twist and making sure they get their money's worth. But so I tell everybody, go pick it up, let me know, and just see and read it and let me know what you think about it. But they are scary, so when I tell people, do me a favor. When you read my book, tell me what hospital you in, because it is medically unsafe.
All right. Look, also to everybody out there too, make sure you check out my Facebook pages as well, because for the things that Deno will allow to get out, I will make sure that I'm posting them, so you can go to my page as well and be able to keep up with his work also. Deno, it's been wonderful having you on the show today, bro. And we look forward to hearing from you again, man. And happy holidays out there too, bro. Enjoy it.
Same to you, Keith, and you and yours, your family and things like that, your team. You have a great team, and I sure appreciate that.
Thank you. Look, Deno, we'll be talking again soon, brother.
All right, you take it easy now.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Deno Sandz, wonderful horror author. Matter of fact, not just horror. He's doing comedy and doing a lot of different things. So make sure you get a chance to check him out. Check all his books out. We'll have him back on the show soon so you can keep up with what he's doing presently and in the future. You listen to the Keith Harris Show Global Network right here on HotlineRadio.net. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a minute with the wonderful Michelle Tomlinson right here on the show. Let's go.